Alright, here we are, guys. Frank, Godzilla Island for the Mazer Squad. Continuing with our Massive Verse comic reviews, we have here Radiant Red Volume 1. Now, we've previously covered Radiant Black Volume 1 and 2. This was next in line for me to read and cover. Really awesome follow-up to read if you read Radiant Black 1 and 2 and pick this up right after. It follows Satomi Sone. She is our Radiant Red. This series is written by Cherish Chen, co-written by Kyle Higgins, the creator of Radiant Black and the Massiverse. Art was done by David Lafuente. Colors was Miquel Muerto. Letters were Diego Sanchez. Becca Carey did the prologue letters. And then we have Kyle Higgins here credited for Radiant Black. And creative director for Kyle Higgins. Editor is Michael Bichetti. And production artist is Rich Folks. So it starts off with the prologue, which is the issue 6 of Radiant Black that covered Satomi Sone's backstory and how she became the Radiant Red. Like it covered back in that review, she was a newlywed teacher who her husband had some gambling issues, and she was falling on some tough times. They were about to lose the house, and that's when she was outside one night, saw this star falling, and it split into 4 different pieces, and she got smacked with the red one and became the Radiant Red. And in her time of desperation, she used her powers to rob a chain of banks, which we saw happen in Radiant Black Volume 1, and eventually Radiant Black stopped her after this, but she brought the money home thinking that she could pay off her husband's gambling debts. But as we learn later on in the continuation here in Radiant Red, which this is where the new stuff begins that we haven't seen in Radiant Black, she's still struggling with money problems. As a teacher, she realized it probably wasn't a smart idea to steal bank money that the government can track, and they've just had it stashed in the attic the whole time. We see a couple of flashbacks with her sisters, how she had some aspirations to move to Japan back in her early days, and it kind of didn't happen. At the end of her class here, she gets confronted by this dude who we later find out is Shift, trying to recruit her for a job, but she kind of turns him down. And as she's leaving for the parking lot, she gets confronted yet again by a reporter trying to get her account of her fight with Radiant Black back in Radiant Black Volume 1. She's like, "Oh, I heard you were there." And she's like, yeah, I was there in Lockport when that went down. And the reporter's trying to narrow down who Radiant Red is. She doesn't quite think that Satomi Sone is Radiant Red, but she's trying to get her kind of alibi and figure out where she was in her perspective of the fight. If you see here, this dude has some greenish glow, and that sort of implies that he's Shift. Down the line, we're going to learn more about Shift. There's a whole standalone comic with a bunch of one-shots about him that were built into like a single comic now, a bunch of minis. So she gets interviewed, and the reporter doesn't really buy her alibi, saying, "Oh, I was just passing through town." But the story goes on, and she decides to take the job from that dude because she's got this money. And she heads into the warehouse where he told her to meet him alone. So she heads in, abandoned, sketchy warehouse. And right off the bat, she is attacked and they pour lava on her. And then she's quickly attacked by a bunch of thugs. And it turns out this is all just a test. And she takes those thugs out with ease. And that's when Shift steps in. And he tries to go toe-to-toe with her. And he really pushes her to her potential her fist, you know, her ability is to absorb matter. She gets stronger from the lava, and as he pushes the limits, she takes that lava or molten hot metal, whatever they poured on her, and blasts him with it. And that's when the boss comes in and is like, all right, we've seen enough. And that's when they're like, yeah, this was a test. We want to see how you were, if you were ready for the job. And like, we know you have this money, you're in some gambling trouble, and we have a heist that we want you to do. And they're kind of like blackmailing her too, kind of holding her against the wall. Like, listen, you can take your stolen money, or you could help us out and we could exchange it for legitimate money that you could actually pay your debts off with. And they're trying to get this, the heist is to steal this mysterious chemical, Mercury S. Now, I'm giving away quite a bit of this, but I'm not going to give away everything because I do want you guys to read this for yourselves if you haven't yet. So, Satomi is back at home in the next issue. Her husband has some gambling issues. Still, he's going to like Gamblers Anonymous. She doesn't want to tell her family that they're considering selling their house because she thinks she could still save it. Like, husband asked her to come for Gamblers Anonymous, but of course that's the night of the heist. And she goes into the heist. It's supposed to be a pretty easy job. Well, this is them recounting the heist. This is when they asked her. So they end up going into the heist after some training and everything. That's in chapter 4. She also gets confronted again by the reporter. So let's skip ahead to the heist. The reporter's still on her tail here. So they go into the heist. It doesn't quite go as smoothly. The scientist that was supposed to help him, turns out he gives them a little warning that there's somebody else on the shift that night that hasn't gone home just yet. The scientist is trying to distract them, but shortly they are spotted and the stealth option goes out the window and the alarm goes off. Shift distracts the guards while she goes straight for the Mercury S. She goes, and with her abilities, which is what they wanted her for this heist, she breaks in, knocks down the walls, and gets to the Mercury S. And you can't simply carry the Mercury S because it's a very poisonous, dangerous substance. And she, with her abilities, though, is able to absorb it. So Satomi Sone absorbs the Mercury S and becomes this crazy form of radiant red. It's all silver and red, and it's because of the mercury. And she's like OP now. She's just like filled with this and just bursts through the door. She's carrying Shift like a child. She's gigantic. She gets in the truck. The mercury is not harmful while it's absorbed in her. So everyone in the truck is safe, and this is when things turn bad for her. So we have the big betrayal, the ultimatum that Satomi Sone gets faced with. Either she agrees to come back on for more jobs, or her husband, along with everyone else in her family, gets killed, and she'll have to just be out there on her own and get proven that she was radiant red, and she'll be arrested and her family will be shamed and killed. Or, you know, it goes, she works with the bad guys. So she's like, you know what, I'll do the job, you could kill him. So they start to drag him away, and she gets up and she goes to dump the Mercury S into the can, but she leaves just enough that they can't see it. And right when things are about to go south for her, she lets it out, and everyone and all the goons begin just puking, bleeding everywhere. And I don't know, they kind of leave it like they might survive. It does not look good. She's getting revenge sworn on her, but she goes home and Shift's there, and he's like, I knew you weren't going to take the deal. He's like, it's like, good on you. He's like, let's set out, we could do our own thing, ditch the husband, come with me, because Shift has been kind of hitting on her the whole time. He's like, we were a great team. He's like, we could do this, we could have our own little syndicate going here. And she's like, I don't think so. So they begin fighting it out and destroying the house that is being foreclosed on. And this epic fight takes place. She gets stabbed in the chest But then that's when this giant radiant thing bursts through her, and she just gets out of control and just smashes Shift into the ground. And she takes the money, and she's like, all right, you know what? You are dead weight. She calls it off with her husband, Owen. She says it through. And she gives him a chunk of cash. And she's like, take care of yourself. Take the ring. And yeah. She later turns herself in to the police with the stolen money. Most of it, besides what she gave her husband. And admits that she's radiant red. And it's a pretty crazy ending. I don't know where it's going to go from there. But I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with this character in Radiant Black and all the other Masterverse entries. I don't know if we see more of her or not. I'm hoping we do. I'm sure she's in the Supermassive crossover. Really enjoyed this book and character. I'm reading Inferno Girl Red right now, so that will be our next one up. And look out for that when that hits the channel. And thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what your favorite Masterverse character is and what your favorite book you've read so far. If I haven't read it yet, I'm going to be getting to it, so let me know.